Hello and welcome to MIP TV. And with me is the veritable Bob Cook, a man who lives in the equivalent of the Smithsonian Library, and he's here to review two more books, or at least one more book in this episode. And it's one of I know a friend of yours,
Yeah.
but a person who comes up a lot in the book reviews, and that's Richard Erskine, and it's Relational Patterns. Relational Therapeutic Patterns, and it was published in 2015. Sounds interesting, Bob.
Yeah. Relational Patterns, Therapeutic Presence.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's just about the fourth book we've reviewed of Richard Erskine.
It is.
Yeah. He's a friend of mine, a colleague, and a well-known author, trainer, supervisor. And this book is his last book, really, that he did in 2015. And it's a series of articles over the last, going back quite a long way. And he put them all together and put them in a book. I wrote one of the testimonials for it. So I'm on the back cover saying how wonderful the book is, which I'm saying again here. And it's wonderful for students. I think it's wonderful for people who's interested in the world of psychotherapy. And it's an all-round good read.
Well, you can't beat a good read, can you? So what is the clue really, I guess, is in the name, isn't it? Relational therapeutic patterns. But what do you think this book highlights? If someone was reading it, what would they take away from it?
The biggest thing to take away from this book is how to maintain contact with their clients.
Ah, yes. And when we're talking of contact, what we're talking about is that kind of intersubjective connection, isn't it? So that we're in, or for those who might be listening, in a person-centered way, frame of reference, seeing the world as the client sees it.
Yeah, it's how to maintain a relationship, a therapeutic relationship, looking at the disruptions to the relationship, how to heal these ruptures, if you like, and stay in the relational framework.
So important, isn't it? Because there's a lot of conversation, certainly in training, around building the therapeutic relationship, but not a lot, in my experience, of how to repair any disruptions or fissures in the therapeutic relationship.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things in healing, actually, I think, is for the therapist. I want to own their mistakes, or to at least learn from their mistakes in psychotherapy, and bring that into therapeutic relationships. So to actually say, well, I didn't quite understand you there, or I did something. Say it's not something like you've done something wrong, but actually owning up to their part in the therapeutic discourse.
Yeah, it's being authentic, isn't it, Bob? That's what you're alluding to. And when I was a student, when I was a trainer, I shared with my students the time that I was working with someone, and I did a summing up. And as I got to the end, I thought, that is just the worst summing up I've ever done. And I said to the client, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I feel I haven't really given you the material justice. I kind of owned it, and it was amazing how it created more of a bond between us therapeutically, because I was real.
Oh, absolutely. The client's seeing the human person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is able to understand that it's not like you're the expert and he's I don't know, the person that needs help, if you like. But there's a collegial humanness about both of you.
Absolutely. It's an acknowledgement, isn't it, of both two human beings sharing the same space. So it discusses that. Does it give examples of it, Bob? Is there examples?
Well, there's 13 or 14 different articles, quite a lot by him, obviously. And it talks a lot about the methods, practice of integrative psychotherapy. Now, Richard Erskine was, of course, the founder of the International Integrative Psychotherapy Association, which, of course, I'm a teacher in and a clinician in. And he goes on in depth to talk about things like how to stay in the transference, methods of an integrative psychotherapy, and how IIPA was founded all those years ago. So it's for people interested in integrative psychotherapy principles and methods, but also sophisticated articles about how you work in the transference, how you can stay out of the transference, I'm just assuming the listeners know what we're talking about when we talk about transference here.
But,
I'm sure they're a sophisticated lot.
well, maybe, but maybe for those casual people who've just bumped into us on YouTube, why not kind of allude to it and develop that idea, Bob?
Yeah, it's the idea that we put onto others, people from our past. So, for example, the client walks into the room and says, Bob, when you actually frown like that, you can remind me so much of my father when I was 5. And when he was angry with me, I just knew by that same frown that appears that I've got to actually do the right thing. And I must make sure here that I'm perfectly silent. You do remind me so much of him, you know.
Mm. Yeah, and if it's voiced, you can work with that, can't you? You can gently remind the client that you're not their father.
Yeah.
I'm working the here and now, not in the past. It becomes more difficult, doesn't it, if that's a subconscious thing? So the client doesn't kind of elucidate it, and the therapist has to kind of be intuitive and maybe work it out, and maybe ask, say, I notice when I say something, you look. Do I remind you of anybody?
Yeah, that's one way of working it. And of course, relational TA people, especially 2008, post that. Helena Harguden will talk about that way of working.
Yeah.
Richard Erskine does talk about that way of working, but he also talks about how you can move in the transference and actually, I wouldn't say play the same role as that deficit, that idolized parent, but actually takes that space, if you like, and especially working with the fantasy parent, the father or the mother they never had. And so getting back to that really early injury or deficit, so healing. And some people back in the day might have called that spot reparenting. So you're working with the regression right back to the early deficit.
Yeah, and of course, Patricia Clarkson wrote a lot about the repatriative reparenting style, and that intersubjective idea. So, no, it sounds like a fantastic book. Who's going to benefit from reading this, do you think, Bob?
Interesting. Students, definitely, because learning about the early origins of integrative psychotherapy and the importance of the methods of integrative psychotherapy as well as the principles. But also, people post-qualifying who not only want to refresh their ideas on integrative psychotherapy, but to actually read a master at work and his ideas of how you stay within the relationship, with integration being the cure.
Yeah, and I think I'd add to that is that, I know that when people are coming on this channel, it is, predominantly you talk about transactional analysis, but I do think, and I'm very kind of passionate about people understanding the intersubjective relationship, even if they're not TA therapists. It appears in, person-centered therapy, in any therapy where the relationship is a foundation of any kind of treatment that's going forward. So it might be a book for people to investigate, even if they're not TA therapists, if they're Gestalt or person-centered.
Yes. When I've been into various colleges or different training centres teaching different styles of therapeutic models, different styles of counselling models, if you like, if you wanted to stretch it, but certainly different ways of looking at the human personality. This is another one. A very, very up-to-date, useful one, with integration at the heart of cure.
Yes. Well, I think that's a wonderful recommendation. Relational therapeutic patterns.
Relational patterns, therapeutic presence.
That's it. Relational patterns, therapeutic presence.
One last word on that. It's called that. That title's called because I remember talking to Richard, and he said, Bob, over the last 40 to 50 years, one of my major aims as a therapist is to help people change or to be aware of the implicit conclusions that they made all those years ago, which doesn't help them today. In other words, to be aware and to change their life script and relational patterns, which aren't useful now.
Yeah, so yes, I think that's really interesting. And we come back to the idea of scripts in TA. So as usual, Bob doesn't get paid for this. This is just Bob sharing his love of literature, sharing it with us all. We're very grateful of that. And we'll put a link in downstairs in the link below. If you want to have a look at the book or you want to inspect it, click on and you can have a look. If you want to buy it, well, that's fine. And as always, Bob Cook, thank you very much.